and welcome to another episode of People Talks. I'm your host, Chitong from Engage Rocket, the fastest growing people analytics company in Southeast Asia. This series has us exploring different aspects of how companies and leaders are navigating the current COVID-19 situation to extract insights and practices from those at the top of their field. Over the past 3 weeks, Singapore has been undergoing the largest work from home experiment ever. And already it's having huge implications on how we think about remote working, the future of office space, and communications technology. Some of us, however, have been working from home for 10, that's right, 10 weeks and counting. And today is my very great pleasure to have here with us Mr. Rahul Daswani, Head of People and Culture at PeopleTalks, GovTech Singapore, to share more about that experience. Hi, Rahul, and welcome to the show.
Hey, Chetan, great to be here.
Could you share a little bit more about what Open Government Products does, actually, for those of us not in the know?
Yeah, sure. So Open Government Products is a division under the Government Technology Agency of Singapore, known as GovTech. And specifically, we are an experimental and implementation unit. So the whole idea is to experiment with new ways of building technology, new ways of operating with ICT infrastructure, so using the cloud, for example, and new ways of working in an organization. So that's everything from reporting structure to the way we work, our processes, and our policies. So that's the whole idea behind Open Government Products. And the things that we do that seem to make sense and are scalable, that could be used by other parts of government, then they can and should adopt some of these practices.
Okay, very cool. So it's like the experimental arm of GovTech, like trying both the technology as well as the internal processes.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've been working from home for 10 weeks. What has it been like?
I guess it's been the ups and downs. So yeah, it's been a long time. So I struggled a lot the first month, and I think what I struggled a lot with was the boundaries between work and home. Uh, and it's like it gets blurred. People somehow expect you to reply more in the evenings or off cycle because you're always at home. In a space kind of way, I brought my laptop to my living room, so I felt like I just open it up and it was work, and I close it and it wasn't. So it wasn't nice at first, but I think after a month, after creating some boundaries, some separation, both in terms of space and time. So I just refused to answer any messages after 7 or 8 p.m. and people kind of get used to it. You realize that not everything is urgent or pressing, and if it really is, then people probably call me. So creating that boundary really helped a lot in getting me accustomed to this new normal.
It's really interesting. And actually, do you find that you're getting more done, less done, or kind of about the same?
So at first, in the first month, it was less. It was less because I had to figure out what are the timings that work, like how do I integrate other parts of my life into this new normal. So I was less productive than I would be in the office. But now I would say probably more. Now that we've ironed out coordination mechanisms, we've also tried out some new tools, both to get a pulse on kind of where people are, but also in terms of we're using this thing called Discord. I don't know if you've heard of this. It's
Oh
actually
yeah.
a popular gamer thing, and so we're trying to have these channels. I think really one of the main questions is what do you want to keep from this new trying out work from home experiment, and what do you want to go back to when you go back to the office? And for us, so one of the things we're trying is a default. When you have meetings, you just leave the channels open. So if you have different products, right, you have different meetings, and you can see what meetings are happening. So if I, for example, like in the office, I might just eavesdrop on a meeting. I can do this online too. So I can just put myself there and I can see what's going on. If somebody's screen sharing, I can eavesdrop if I want to just do voice. So that's nice. It seems a bit weird when you first think about it, but if you think about it, like in the office, it's a bit like that. What I eavesdrop a bit. So that's been an interesting experience to play that out and bring something that used to be what works in the office and see if it works online.
And this is all on Discord, is it? Like that you guys just have a lot of different meeting rooms open and
Yeah, so we're using different meeting rooms for different things. So still for large, because Discord has a cap of 25 people per room, you can't do your whole team-wide meetings there. So we're using Zoom for those. So we have a standard. So what we've incorporated is a 6 p.m. check-in, and we're also trying to use that to help for everybody create this boundary between work and personal life. So 6 p.m., stop whatever you're doing. Let's have a quick team meeting, which is like 5 or 10 minutes, just an update on what's the major updates of the day that have happened. And then after that, I mean, ideally people can leave, take a break or stop work for the day. So that's a nice way to end it. That's a new thing. We never used to have 6 p.m. meetings before. So that's one way of just putting an end to the day.
Oh, that's quite nice. And these 6 p.m. meetings, are they like entire team-wide, like open government products, everybody, or is it like just individual teams? Like how does that work?
So this is an entire team-wide meeting. So what happens in the meeting is that the director of open government products will give a quick overview, usually 5 or 10 minutes, about what's been happening that week. And then the nice thing is people can also spend 5 or 10 minutes if there's key updates to a particular product to either demo the product or talk through some of the meetings that they had that were useful. And because they are daily meetings, there aren't that many updates. It's not like every product is going to have a major update to share that day. So it rarely, if ever, goes beyond 20 or 30 minutes. And the other great thing is then you can spread it out over the week. So even our Friday meetings, which traditionally are quite long, don't have to be as long anymore. So that's quite nice. And then the final thing I'll say about this is we make sure to make it optional. So the people who are parents have to deal with home-based learning and their kids may not be able to attend, like that's okay. And then we post a quick summary on the Slack channel to say, hey, these are the main points that were covered today. So it's okay if you miss them. Yeah.
That's a really interesting point that you mentioned that the Friday meetings that used to be quite long now can be shortened because of these shorter meetings that are happening. Out of curiosity, what is the longest meeting that you've had to have on Zoom since you started like 10 weeks ago?
So the longest actual meeting is, so normally we have team sharings on Friday, right? And that starts at 4:30 and often goes well past 6. So now we've been able to make that tighter. You have your team sharing. I think part of it is also adjusting to the new dynamic where people don't feel as comfortable asking questions on Zoom when there's like 40 people in the Zoom call as you might in person, where you can see more clearly everybody around. So then it's like, how do you use the chat function well? Or if you have Q&A, then how do you use the Q&A function well? How do you respond to maybe multiple questions coming in at once? So things like that, and then people are adjusting to that. So the longest meeting from a work standpoint hasn't been that long, maybe an hour or an hour and a bit. And people are quite conscious of engagement coming down and stop it. But what we've done is, in addition to the formal meetings, we're also trying to replicate some of the informal activities. So we have a happy hour, for example, on Friday. And traditionally, you would go down in our WeWork at least to the bar, and there's a separation of space there. So what we're planning to do is there's a separation between the Zoom, and then if anybody who wants to attend happy hour, instead of leaving it on Zoom, which we did the first few weeks, and then you have people who are like, oh, I want to leave, but it's a bit awkward to leave because because everybody's just there. You provide an avenue by having it in different channels or even different links. It's nice because then people can feel comfortable just disconnecting after the formal thing and going back to their personal life. But for people who really want to continue the social aspect, you have drinks over Zoom, then we move that to Discord. And so you actually have to make the physical step of moving to Discord, and then you have naturally the people who are more interested in being there, and it's not an obligation for people to come. So that's been nice as a way to have both. And so in that way, it could be a really long meeting, but because you split it up, the feel of the meeting is actually different.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I guess, I mean, you guys are naturally technology inclined, so this might be maybe unique to the kind of culture. But maybe talk me through like the key tech stack that you guys have. So you have Zoom for most of the meetings. You have Discord for, I guess, the kind of happy hour kind of stuff. And then at the same time, there are also team meetings that happen on Discord. Is that right? Or
Yeah, that's right. So I'm trying to figure out whether to take you through our old tech stack or a new tech stack. So So I would say that the old one primarily had Slack as our main messaging mechanism, and Slack actually allows you to do calls, both voice and video calls, as well as exchange files. And Slack is still the base information exchange platform for our team. Of course, we have email too, but Slack is really great for just day to day and within the day using that. And we used to use Google Meet quite often. So you set up a meeting because we're using Google Suite. We get the Meet platform, and you have meetings on that platform, and that's nice, especially for external audiences. So now we've done Zoom because Zoom is just much better for large scale team meetings, which we used to do in person. So Zoom is really great for that. And then we were thinking about how do we replicate some of the office feel. And so with that, we actually tried Remotion and we tried Discord at the same time to see which works better. Remotion is a smaller outfit, more of a startup. And so with that one, you can indicate presence. So you can indicate, hey, I'm around, hey, I'm really available, or I'm just away, I'm busy. And so then somebody, if you're around, but not necessarily available, then somebody can invite you to have a conversation. But if you're available, then somebody can just jump into a video call with you straight away. So it's nice in the sense, it's a nice in between to the office and Discord, because Discord is like you're on. I mean, somebody's going to jump in and be on video or a voice with you. Whereas Remotion, at least you have a bit more control. And it's not
Right,
necessarily as noisy if you're not in channels like Discord, and you can see things happening. So that was a nice in between, but we're trying out Discord just because, like you said earlier, the team meetings that happen quite often, it's quite easy for them to happen on Discord, and it's much easier for people to jump in and out because the teams are labeled, so you actually know which meeting you're joining and what the purpose of the meeting is. So it's quite nice to be able to do that.
I see. But like team stand-ups and so on, those are still done on Zoom or done on Discord or
We're
whichever.
trying them on Discord now. So they used to be done on Slack, and then now we're trying them on Discord.
Oh, very interesting. So there are all these different communication processes that are in place, and I mean, obviously, everyone's had to go through that learning curve, and it's great to hear that now you can even set boundaries to say that at 7 o'clock you're not looking at emails anymore, but actually you're getting more done in a day, right? Which is pretty amazing. So how do you keep yourself focused and productive through the day?
I found that complex things don't work that well for me. So for me, it's really honestly, it's really like simplifying it down. So I have a Kanban flow board, and it's just like writing what are my tasks for the day. And if I forget to write it down, but I do something, and I want to feel that burst of acknowledgement, and validation. So I just write myself, in the done list, I add the task, then I finish that task.
I feel you, man. Exactly.
So I have that. I have like a Pomodoro timer, which is basically just like a 20-minute timer, and then it's like, hey, you work straight for 20 minutes on this task, take a 5-minute break, and then I go out and get a glass of water or something. And it's just small things like these. It helps me to regulate my energy levels throughout the day, and that's really what helps to keep me going and be productive.
Oh. And on the mental health side of things, what are you doing to stay sane?
So I've reconnected with meditation. So I try and do a meditation for 5 or 10 minutes a day. I mean, there are a bunch of different apps. I like Calm and Mindfy, in particular. Headspace is great too. So just try and doing that one. The other big thing is exercise. It really helps keep me sane. And so the first month I didn't have a good routine because I used to play squash. I played squash every Sunday for the last 5 years. So when they shut these things down, I was like, oh man, what am I gonna do? And I tried running, and running is fine once in a while, but it's just not the best substitute. So what I've come to is again like building it into a routine. And so it turns out that Barry's Bootcamp has every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 a.m. High intensity workout for 30 minutes. And so now I'm like, okay, like great. I'll make sure every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I wake up before 8, get ready, and start my day with that half an hour, really intense workout, do some stretches. And that's really nice because then that actually energizes me for the rest of the day, and I don't feel bad just doing a walk, like a 30-minute walk after work on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that's been great too.
Okay, so high intensity workouts, one, 3, and 5, and 2 and 4, kind of like strolls for like 30 minutes.
Yeah, and
That sounds
meditation also helps, and I've also gotten back into reading, which is nice because,
Oh,
I mean, you're at home, so there's a tendency to go to bed earlier. My wife sleeps a bit earlier than me, so I just have my Kindle, and then I've gone back to reading. I mean, I'm reading Cixin Liu's third book, so the Three Body Problem series. So it's nice to get
oh,
some science fiction out, and it's quite nice to have that routine too.
yeah, that's sitting on my shelf right now. Actually, it's a really good book. And yeah, I was actually gonna ask like if you're overweight, but I guess with three high intensity workouts a week, you should be doing perfectly fine. So last thing, you've been doing all this for yourself. Do you find that you've needed to do anything extra for your team to keep them engaged and productive over and above like just the substitution of
Mm.
your happy hours from like in person to virtual? Is there something else that you've had to do to be more intentional about maintaining high levels of engagement and productivity?
What have we been doing differently is opening up different channels of communication for people to connect. And that doesn't necessarily have to be with me or my team working on people and culture, but just within the team, have more ways for people to connect, right? So I mentioned some of the informal ones. So we have the team sharing every Friday. We also have team lunches every Tuesday and Thursday, and it's kind of open. I mean, you can come bring your lunch and have lunch with other people if you want. And the idea behind different timings is so it caters to different people who might be available at different times or be interested in different activities. There's games that we're building. So we did a trivia game, ask people to submit three lies and a truth and see if people can guess which which one is the truth. So it's about and I think the big thing is also monitoring, right? So it's monitoring especially to figure out who are the people who are in the intersection of not coming for any of the events and newer, more likely to be isolated for some reason. So people who are not coming, but it's okay because they have responsibilities or they're really social or they have their own ways to connect, actually that's totally fine. It's not mandatory. But if there are people who are not coming and are probably more vulnerable, because we have a few new team members join in the past month, and obviously for those people it's fully remote, right? You join remote, you don't meet any of your colleagues. If you're not joining some of these social activities, then I wonder how connected are you? And then reaching out individually to some of these people to see is there anything specific that we can help provide to help them with integrating into the team. So that's what we're doing differently.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Last question, in within like just 30 seconds, if you have one tip to give other leaders that might have to work from home for 10 weeks, what would you say to them as their main priority in ensuring that they themselves stay focused and productive throughout this their period?
So my main tip is really the creating your boundaries, and you can create them in a way that works well for you. It can be space, time, ideally both. Maybe there are more ways you want to create boundaries between yourself and other people around you as well. So whatever that looks like for you, I know one of my colleagues actually packs a laptop every day, turns off the laptop, packs it in the bag, because then there's that feeling, right? Like I've come to work, now I'm taking out my laptop, I'm opening it up, and you have that sense of routine. So that's really nice. I thought that was a really nice way of starting and ending the day, and you have that physical movement as well to signal the start and end of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
day. So find whatever routine works well for you.
That's wonderful. And once again, that was Rahul Daswani, Head of People and Culture at Open Government Products, GovTech Singapore. I've been your host, Chitong from Engage Rocket, and you've been watching People Talks. Thank you very much for listening in.